Go on walk, gump ass motherfucker.
Look at all those niggas getting his ass beat.
You know, there's this line that never really gets said in The Wire, but you can feel it breathing under every frame. The game doesn't create evil, it manufactures survival. Michael Lee is proof of that. If you look at him at the beginning, this quiet, wary kid trying to hold his family together, you wouldn't think you were watching the birth of a killer. He doesn't talk much, and when he does, it's short, careful.
I got a problem I can't bring to no one else.
You can tell he's already learned something most adults never do. Silence is protection. In his world, curiosity kills faster than bullets. Michael's story is a map of how good boys turn into ghosts. The streets didn't seduce him, they demanded him. And the cruel part is, it was never really a choice. Because when you grow up in a house that feels more like a battlefield, the first thing to die is childhood.
Where's the rice-a-roni? Ma, where's the rice-a-roni?
There's this boy on the stoop, looked like he was starving.
So you cooked it for him?
Nah, I just gave it to him.
Just gave it to him. Boy ate a raw box of rice-a-roni.
He's just 13, taking care of his little brother Bug, while his mother disappears into her addictions. You can see it in the way he watches her. Eyes that should be full of wonder are instead scanning for danger. Is she sober today? Did she sell the groceries again? Will Bug eat tonight?
These are adult questions, and yet they're all that occupy a child's mind. And that's the trick of the game. It doesn't need to recruit you. It just lets your reality do the convincing.
Homework stops mattering when there's no food in the fridge. The moral compass rusts when the power's off. So when someone offers you a way out, when someone like Marlo Stanfield says there's a code, a structure, a way to finally control something in a world that's never given you control, you listen. Even if deep down, you already know it comes with a price.
But we always in the market for a good soldier. You see one we like, we take care of the situation. Take him in, school him, make him family. And if you with us, you with us. Just like we be with you all the way. You have a mind, you're in.
Michael isn't like his friends. Dookie, sweet Dookie, lives in the same chaos but clings to hope through imagination. He's the quiet dreamer who still believes someone might come save him. But Michael doesn't have that luxury. He's got Bug. He's got a brother who depends on him, and that kind of responsibility crushes you before it builds you.
It ain't like that. I mean, Michael would come if he could, but wouldn't have nobody else to pick up his little brother Bug. And you know, his mother, she on that stuff.
Responsibility is supposed to make you a man, but in a place like Baltimore, it just makes you tired. That's how the game gets you. Not with the promise of money or even power, but with relief. The relief of knowing you can protect someone, that you can finally do something when the system, the teachers, the cops, your own mother have all failed you. It's not greed that pulls Michael in, it's love twisted by desperation.
It's between you and Michael. Mike ain't Mike no more. He went hard on his boy last night. Fucked his shit up.
Look at all those niggas getting his ass beat.
Y'all was talking to goddamn.
That's what makes his transformation so tragic. Because before he ever picks up a gun, he's already broken. You can see it the moment he turns to Marlo's enforcers, Chris and Snoop, asking for help to take care of something. He never says the words, but everyone in that room knows. His mother's boyfriend, the man who's been around the house, has been hurting him, or worse, Bug, and that's when Chris sees himself in the boy.
I just want him gone. Just want him away from me and Bug.
All right. Take care of it, boss.
David Simon said it outright. Chris was sexually abused as a child. It's never shown, only hinted. But you can see it in that scene when the man who hurt Michael tries to talk his way out. He says,
You been inside? Man gotta bust his nut, know what I'm saying?
and that's when something in Chris breaks. He doesn't wait. He doesn't hesitate. He kills the man with a rage that feels ancient, like he's murdering every version of himself that ever felt powerless. And in that moment, something unspoken passes between him and Michael, a shared pain, a shared code. That's how the game recruits its next soldier, not through contracts or handshakes, but through wounds. From that day on, Michael becomes one of them. Not because he loves the life, but because he owes it. The world didn't protect him, but Chris did, and debts like that can't be repaid with words. But even then, you can see the resistance burning under his skin. Snoop tells him early on,
but it's how you carry yourself. Always apart, always acting wild, when you should be doing what you told. You was never one of us. You never could be.
and she's right. Michael doesn't laugh like they do. He doesn't brag about the bodies or the money. When he kills, it's clinical, mechanical, like he's doing something necessary, not glorious. He's the product of trauma trying to justify itself through precision.
What's haunting about The Wire is that it never lets us separate monsters from victims. They're the same person, at different points in the same loop. Michael becomes what he feared because that's what survival required. He's not a sociopath. He's a casualty of logic.
Think about it. When you live in a world where the law doesn't protect you and the streets punish weakness, what does morality even mean? You start creating your own rules. Chris had one, no mercy for predators. Marlo had one, power is reputation. Michael's rule became, protect the innocent, even if it means becoming guilty yourself. But the longer you play by your own rules, the more you disappear. Every time Michael kills, another piece of the boy vanishes. By the time Bunk interrogates him, that innocence is gone.
You make out who that is?
Yeah.
Look at you. Not even blinking.
Bunk calls him just a boy, but that's the tragedy. He's not. He hasn't been for a long time.
Individual, a fearsome individual. You see what I'm saying?
You're the murder police. How the fuck would I know?
There's a line from Bunny Colvin in Season 3 when he talks about Omar Little. Before some fool gave little Omar a shotgun, he was somebody's child.
That's what makes The Wire timeless. It's not about drugs or crime. It's about inheritance. Every generation inherits the ghosts of the one before it. Avon gave way to Marlo, Omar to Michael. The cycle never breaks.
And what kills me is how invisible that process looks from the outside. To the cops, Michael's just another name in a case file. To the corners, he's just another soldier. But if you look closely, you can still see the flashes of who he used to be. Like when he tries to keep Bug out of the life, or when he spares someone he doesn't need to kill.
At the end, Michael's walking the same streets Omar once did, robbing drug dealers, living by a code no one understands anymore. People call him the new Omar, but that misses the point. He's not replacing Omar. He's the continuation of Omar's logic.
A logic that says if the system can't deliver justice, then justice must deliver itself. And that's the real horror of The Wire. It doesn't end when the show cuts to black. The cycle keeps spinning. Because the structures that made Michael, the schools that failed him, the police that ignored him, the city that abandoned him, are still standing, still waiting for the next boy to walk through the same door. That's how the game creates monsters. Not out of evil, but out of necessity. Not through greed, but through grief. The streets don't want your soul, they just want your silence. And once you give that up, there's no coming back. The thing about The Wire is that it never screams its truth at you. It just sits there, patient, like a mirror you can't look away from. And when you stare long enough, you start to realize something uncomfortable. The game doesn't just live in Baltimore. It lives everywhere there's structure without compassion. Michael's story, his rise, his fall, it's not just about crime, it's about the psychology of systems. Every system, whether it's the streets, the police department, or city hall, needs order to function. But order without empathy becomes its own kind of violence. It feeds off predictability. It punishes chaos. And kids like Michael are chaos, unplanned, unwanted, uncontrollable. When the show begins, Michael still has lines he won't cross. He refuses Marlo's money, refuses to sell dope, refuses to let strangers take care of Bug. There's dignity in that defiance, but dignity doesn't feed you. Dignity doesn't stop the landlord from evicting you or your mom's boyfriend from walking back through the door. So the game teaches him something. Morality is a luxury you can't afford when you're broke. The transition is slow, almost invisible. One day you're running from the corners, and the next day you're running them. And by the time you notice the difference, it's too late. Michael starts following Chris and Snoop's orders with precision. He's colder now, quieter, but still you can tell he's thinking. You can tell he hasn't surrendered completely. There's this one scene where he's ordered to kill someone, and instead of the usual cocky swagger you see in other young hoppers, he hesitates. He studies the man's face like he's asking himself, is this what I've become? And that's the thing about trauma. It doesn't turn you into a villain overnight. It teaches you to compartmentalize, to build little rooms in your head where the guilt can't reach you. The problem is, those rooms start to feel like home. Every gun Michael fires builds another wall. Every death makes it easier to stop feeling. That's what the game rewards. The ability to separate action from emotion. The less you feel, the longer you survive. But here's the paradox. The very traits that keep him alive also make him disappear. By the end, he's no longer a boy, no longer a brother, barely even a person. He's a ghost haunting the same blocks he grew up on, and what's so poetic, so cruel, is that his transformation mirrors the city's own decay. The institutions in The Wire, the police, the schools, the political system, they all start with good intentions, but the deeper you go, the more you realize they've become self-sustaining machines. Their only goal is to keep existing, to maintain their own authority, even if it means destroying the very people they were built to protect. Michael learns that same lesson. He becomes his own institution, cold, efficient, unreachable. Remember that scene when Marlowe loses his composure, shouting, "My name is my name"? It's the only time we see him crack, because even the coldest men crave recognition. But Michael doesn't. That's what makes him terrifying. He doesn't want fame or power. He just wants control. The game took everything from him, so he takes back the only thing it can't corrupt, his independence.
But independence in the streets is just another illusion. There's no freedom when every move you make is dictated by survival. You don't own the game, it owns you. By the time Michael becomes the lone gunman robbing dealers, everyone sees him as the new Omar.
But he's not Omar. Omar believed in something, honor among thieves, a code, a kind of moral clarity in a broken world. Michael, though, he's colder than that. He doesn't rob for balance, he robs to keep breathing. It's easy to look at him and say he became a monster. But maybe the word monster is just our way of pretending we wouldn't do the same thing, because what else was he supposed to do? The cops didn't protect him, the city didn't feed him, the schools didn't educate him, and every adult he trusted used him or abandoned him. That's how the game wins. It convinces you that your only worth is in how well you play by its rules. It's the same for the dealers, the cops, even the politicians. Everyone thinks they're the exception, but they're all just keeping the wheel turning. You can trace it like a family tree of failure. Avon to Marlowe, Stringer to Chris, Omar to Michael. Each one a variation of the same design, each one believing they're different but dying the same way. And that's why the show never gives you closure, because there isn't any. The violence doesn't end. It just changes names. The final scenes of Michael walking through the dark alleys, coat collar up, gun in hand. It's haunting because it's quiet. No music, no drama, just a boy who's finally stopped running, only to realize he's become the thing he was running from. You can almost hear the city whispering, "Welcome home." What makes Michael Lee so tragic isn't that he becomes violent, it's that his violence makes sense. You understand it. You might even in some small, shameful way root for it, because the world around him has already lost its morality. He's just following the logic that everyone else ignores. And that's the uncomfortable truth that The Wire forces on us. The monsters aren't born on the corners, they're assembled by the system. Piece by piece, neglect by neglect. Every cut in funding, every corrupt arrest, every fatherless home, every empty fridge, it's all part of the construction. By the time we meet Michael, the blueprint is already written. He just fills the mold. There's a moment near the end when Bunk looks at him and says, "You're just a boy." And for a second, you want to believe that's true. But the boy is gone. The boy was buried somewhere between Bug's bedtime and his mother's next fix. What's standing there now is the city's creation, a living answer to its own failure. In another life, maybe he's a teacher, maybe a soldier, maybe a father, but in this one, he's just another link in the chain. Another proof that if you build a system that eats people long enough, eventually the people learn to bite back. And yet, even with all that weight on him, there's something quietly heroic about Michael. Not in a Hollywood sense, but in a deeply human one. Because no matter how far he falls, he never becomes completely numb. He doesn't kill for fun. He doesn't gloat. he still feels something, and in a place where feeling is weakness, that's strength. Maybe that's what separates him from the others. The game creates monsters, yes, but it never fully kills the man inside. Michael Lee is what happens when survival becomes morality. When protecting someone you love demands that you destroy part of yourself. He's both victim and executioner, the last spark of humanity flickering in a city that forgot what that word means. The cycle will go on. New names, new corners, new kids pretending they're in control. But every once in a while, someone like Michael reminds us that monsters don't start out that way. They're made, carefully, quietly, by rules we refuse to question. And when the credits roll, you're left with this terrible thought. The next Michael is already out there, walking home from school, already learning the lessons the world shouldn't have to teach. That's the real horror of The Wire. Not the drugs, not the bodies, but how easy it is to understand them once you've seen the game for what it really is. Because once you understand it, you realize something even darker. The game doesn't just create monsters, it needs them.
Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. I might do a bunch of Wire videos based on how this goes. Any feedback would be great. See you in the next video.